Good morning. So we've been talking a lot about touch without consent. And today I would like to talk about sacred touch and how sacred touch has really helped my healing process and how it could potentially help your healing process. When I first started, um, it was I was in the military. I was struggling with PTSD. I was struggling with thoughts of suicide. I was struggling with bulimia. And what I found was that military therapists were really making things worse. And organically, maybe divinely guided, I found that self pleasure was better than antidepressants. And as long as I was taking antidepressants, I had to continue seeing military therapists. And so this self pleasure, this sacred touch, led me out of using antidepressants. Just because of all of the feel good endorphins that it releases into your body. The second place that I found sacred touch to be beneficial was when I started holotropic breath work. And in the military, you're not really allowed to cry. It's kind of frowned upon. It's ridiculed. And it was such a healing experience to have someone hold me while I cried. And so that was a really sacred touch. And when I was doing my 3 year somatic experiencing training, we had to do personal sessions. And most of the people certified, or at least the people that were certified that I was doing my personal sessions with, were licensed therapists. And in therapy, they consider it out of our scope of training to provide touch. And this is something that I am trained in is sacred touch. So it is within my scope of practice. But doing my somatic experiencing session, I remember I had a session that was particularly hard, and at the end of it, I was still dysregulated. My body was shaking. I was having a hard time grounding, and the therapist asked me what I needed. And I told her what I really needed was a hug. But of course, that's a boundary for most therapists, especially if it's outside their scope of practice. And so she walked me around her garden. We smelled things in the garden, but it wasn't super helpful. I drove home in tears, dysregulated. And that was really the first time that I realized how important touch was and how I wanted to incorporate it in the way that I practiced with my clients. There are lots of studies, there are lots of scientific research that shows that children as babies, they learn to regulate through being held by their mothers. There's a co-regulation that happens being near their mothers, and that babies, even if all of their other needs are met, they're being fed, they're being watered, their basic survival needs are met, they can fail to thrive if they don't receive this touch. And as I've moved further into my practice, my own practice, and into my practices as a therapist, I've moved into practices such as yoni massages, lingam massages, a practice called Sacred Spot. And so today I want to talk about those a little bit, and how I've seen healing for myself and healing for my clients with the Sacred Spot. As I mentioned, like one of the things I struggled with was bulimia and a lot of body image issues. Um, and there was something extremely healing for someone to hold my body and to touch my body, and with this loving presence, with this full attention. And even the with the Sacred Spot, and I want to say that with the Sacred Spot, it's not a particular spot. It's not goal oriented. It isn't like we have to get here or we have to touch here. And for those of you who don't know, I've used the word yoni and lingam, and so I want to describe that just a little briefly. So the yoni is is the sexual area for a woman, to include the pelvic area and to include the inside, the vagina. And for the man, the lingam is the penis. And so these are just sacred terms, that are used in Sanskrit, um, to describe the sexual region. And in these sacred spot, sessions, this is a possibility if it is something that could be useful in meeting the intention, and it's also based on a client's boundaries. Like if you say no, I don't want this area touched, it is definitely a boundary that's respected. And the goal of a sacred spot session is to really meet the activation where it lives. There are a lot of books, a lot of research. The body keeps the score. Somatic experiencing is based on this idea that the activation lives in the body, that the trauma lives in the body. And what a therapist would then do is they meet that activation and they help that energy to move through. Um, and so this is really what a sacred spot session is intended to do. And while pleasure may be the intention, may be the goal, sometimes it is a byproduct, like you have a different intention, but pleasure arises and we move with that. But there's so many benefits to these types of sessions. Like as I've mentioned, like even just having this loving presence, this loving acceptance, helped me to heal my issues with bulimia, with my body image issues. But it also helps to, when there's stuck energy, to free that energy, so that it can move through, so that you can like live your life fully. And a lot of times when we talk about sexual energy, like people think about sex, they think about this being in conjunction with a partner. But when I talk about sexual energy, what I'm really talking about is this creative life force energy. Yes, sexual energy can be used to create a baby. It can be used to create anything. For me, I've found that when this sexual energy, this creative energy is freed, that's when I do my best work as far as creating courses or like writing a book. Like I had a training that I was at that, had stirred up a lot of this sexual energy, and literally over the course of 2 mornings, I wrote 300 pages. And so this creative energy can be used in any way that you want it to be used. It can be used for sexual engagement with a partner. It can be used as self-pleasure for yourself, but it's your creation energy. And that's the part of the goal, is to release any blockages, to clear any blockages, and to help that move through. Um, One of my, I would say, most useful sessions I did was actually with a gay man, and we had done a sensual Thai massage. And we had 2 sessions, and in the first sessions, I found a lot of discomfort, partially because, like I was the first woman that he had worked with, and I could feel his discomfort with sacred touch with a woman, because a lot of times we think that sacred touch revolves around sexual orientation. And what I learned through that process is that eros, this sexual energy, is not about sexual orientation. It's not about gender orientation. It's about, I appreciate the divinity in you, and we are sharing our erotic energy. We are sharing our life force energy. And that was a beautiful experience for me. Another experience I had with actually my first sacred spot, as I felt this pleasure rising in my body, it was like it opened up this portal into, like, I want to call it like universal wisdom. And what I realized was that it's kind of this cosmic joke. We spend our whole lives um, looking for love, looking for acceptance, and it's already there. It's an illusion. Yes, there are people who don't accept us in our lives. Yes, there are people who are not very loving. But once we open ourselves up to this universal love, this divine unconditional acceptance, it's already there. Like no one can take it from us unless we allow them to take it from us. And so during my sacred spot, like I couldn't stop laughing because it was this realization that that unconditional love and acceptance was already mine and that I had spent my whole life looking for it. So it can open us up to a lot of things. And so just to kind of recap what we've talked about today, sacred touch, can be a way to feel this love and this acceptance. It can be a way to move stuck energy, to move stuck traumas. It can be a way to open ourselves up to self pleasure and pleasure in life in general. It can help us to really reconnect with another human being, to feel that love and that support, to share the divine erotic energy. There are so many benefits. And I could go on, but I just wanted to give you a slight little taste of what sacred touch is and what it can offer you. And if you have any questions or any thoughts, please drop them down below. I'm totally open to questions. I can frame a video for next week to kind of answer your questions. But if you'd like to hear more, and this is something that interests you, then just hit the subscribe button, hit that little bell, because as we know, I have a tendency to kind of release videos whenever the inspiration comes. So if you subscribe and you hit that little bell, it will notify you when a new video has been released. But until next time, I hope that you can just open the possibility of sacred touch, whether that's self pleasure, whether that's just massaging your own body, connecting with your own body, connecting with other people in a consensual, respectful way. Um, yeah, so until next time, I hope that you can open yourself up to the possibilities.